One of the things that sticks out to me with the whole Dylann Roof church shooting in Charleston is it just shows how comfortable that we've gotten in society where acts like this, aren't as common as they used to be. Because it wasn't but, just back in the 1950s and 60s, even into the 70s, where churches were firebombed, black people were taken in the streets, hung from a tree, numerous acts of racial hatred that resulted in the deaths of countless numbers of African Americans. And it goes to show you it's something like this would have been just one of many. This whole Dylann Roof thing would have been just one of many things that happened during the Civil Rights era. It would have just got lost in the shuffle. But today, it's a huge story. And it just goes to show you that the racial hatred is still out there. Not that anyone was denying that it wasn't out there. That there are white people that hate black people enough to physically remove them from the planet by taking their lives. And the whole examination of all this, and just like, no one's going to confuse Dylann Roof for being an intellectual genius or anything like that. I'm sure he's praised in the white supremacy community, which, again, won't be accused of being called geniuses either. But when you have an instance like this, it really wakes up, someone willing to go to that next level over whatever perpetuated notion they have in their mind. And when I see this, it obviously sickens me, as it should sicken anyone out there that is a rational-minded human being that respects everyone that lives on this planet, that realizes everyone has a right to live on this planet, other than murderers that get caught by the police. Even then, I still feel people like that should live. They should rot in jail for the rest of their lives, but that's a whole different issue. To see that Dylann wanted to strike a dagger into the black community, and the way he did it was to go to a church and gun down mostly 50-plus-year-old black grandmothers and a pastor of a church that has done more good to unify the community there in Charleston. And to a number of people that heard his message, he was a very well-known pastor. And to strike that dagger there, it makes me go like, why? Why would you do that? Like, you're so upset with the amount of crime and killing and everything else that the black community creates in society, which, last I checked, white people do the same exact crimes. But anyways, to go into a more hypocritical notion is that Dylann was so upset with the blacks in the community and the killing and the raping and all that other stuff that he listed off, that he goes ahead and commits senseless acts of violence against them, which would in turn make him no better than what he was accusing the black people of doing. Again, no one's going to confuse Dylann for being an intellectual genius. But it's a real scary time that someone has taken that next level, because I fear that this could potentially motivate more racist-minded individuals to go take that next step. Because Dylann wanted to start a race war, and frankly, this is the door opening to that. And I'm frankly scared that things could get out of control, that more senseless acts of violence, and again, senseless acts of violence have been happening a number of times between the Civil Rights era and today. I'm not saying like this is the first instance of a black hate crime of someone getting gunned down and killed for just the color of their skin. Obviously, it's happened a number of times, so don't correct me. Thank you. But taken to this level, and to have a manifesto, and to have the hatred, and just to see someone so young, 21 years old. Like, was life really that bad for you, Dylann? Was it really that bad? Were the blacks wronging you in society that bad that you had to give up because you've given up on your life? You're never going to see the outside world again other than playing basketball in the courtyard for 10 minutes a day if you're lucky to get even that in jail. The hatred that some white people have of black people is very real. And this is the sobering wake-up reminder that that still exists out there. And to what Barack Obama said in the speech he gave the next day after the Charleston shootings, I'm at the point where, talk is cheap. Talk is really, really cheap. Barack wants to sit there and tell us how, and it's truthful in what he said along the lines of, you don't see senseless acts of violence like this in the number of times that they happen in any other civilized nation on the planet. And he wants to bring up the whole thing of, Dylann had easy access to a handgun. And he pulls that out like that's that's one of the glaring things is, frankly, if easy access to handguns was denied, this probably wouldn't have happened. Which is kind of what I'm paraphrasing what Barack was saying. Folks, I hate to break it to you, but when you have evil in your heart and mind and soul and spirit and whatever the hell else you want to say evil got into yourself, you will find a way to kill if that is what you're dead set on. Because last I checked, during the Civil Rights era, when numerous churches in the South were firebombed, where numerous black people were lynched, hung from trees. We didn't talk about banning means to create fire or gasoline or banning ropes or anything like that, or that the easy access to any number of those variables were the reason why so many acts of black hate crimes were carried out. Or hate crimes against blacks, I should say, were carried out. Again, no law or restriction on handguns would have prevented Dylann from doing what he wanted to do. Could have potentially made it harder, absolutely. But if he wanted to kill black people because he was just so fed up and so dead set on his racial hatred, he would have got the job done. Like I said, did it stop people numerous times in the South from carrying out acts of racial hatred against blacks during the Civil Rights era? Obviously it didn't. And Barack wants to say, these number of senseless acts are so much more in a country like America. Well, you know what? A lot of other countries in the civilized world don't have that same racial makeup, scope, hatred, history, all those things that can be attributed to an instance like what Dylann Roof did. Because frankly, something like this wouldn't be carried out in a lot of civilized nations because the componentry is just not there. The componentry of the racial classes, of the hatred, of the history that all mix together that create what Dylann did in that Charleston church. So, I sit here and I just shake my head. I see a number of dead black grandmothers that I can only just imagine what wrong they were committing to society that Dylann had to just step right up with his brave self, and I'm saying that sarcastically, and rid the world of them for us. I see Dylann, a 21-year-old kid, just giving up on his life too. Frankly, he's as good as dead. And again, it's the hypocrisy of everything. You're upset against the black crime, and then you commit a senseless act of crime yourself. But the reality of racial hatred in this country is very real. And people, it's not necessarily need to wake up about it, because I don't think there's anyone that denies that it's not there. Oh no, Dylann's a rare example of someone who hates black people that happens to be white. No, there's a lot of white people that hate black people, that frankly don't care when black people die. And that's the realistic reality of things. Realistic reality, that's a bit redundant. In fact, everyone wants to live in their bubble and just act like, oh, okay, well, I'll put up a good face in public, but in reality, I don't care about black people. I'm not speaking for myself, obviously. But there's a lot of people out there that think like that. That just they don't give a shit. They frankly they saw the Charleston shooting and frankly didn't really bother them at all. And that's what worries me, is that shit like that. It's just accepted as no real big deal. And seeing someone like Barack Obama, talking about how easy access to handguns. And again, I'm all for people having guns and all, and I'm all for the right people having guns in this country. But it's to the point now where it's just unfeasible to, one, propose legislation to take away guns, and two, a restriction of guns, thinking that it's going to stop an act of violence like this. Like, you're living in fantasy land. There's too many guns out there right now. If a perfect place and time, I would have had it that no handguns would be manufactured, whatever. But you know what? This isn't fantasy land. This is reality. But that's the world we live in, and that's the country we live in here, and that's just the reality that we have to deal with. So, anyway, that's all I have to say about this. Have a good day, everyone.